today we're talking about corporate performance management. I'll give you a brief background about Corporate Renaissance Group, and in particular we're going to be talking about adaptive insights. So I'll provide you with an overview and then a demo of the actual product itself, and we will leave time at the end of the webinar for questions and answers if you have any. A little bit about Corporate Renaissance Group. We were founded in 1989. We're based in Ottawa, Ontario. We do have offices across the globe. And really what I wanted to do just very briefly is talk about the strengths of the company, and it really comes from our employee base and the team of people that we have. We have a combination of business and technology folks, so it makes us very well-rounded to meet the technology and software demands of our clients, but with a business acumen behind it, so that we can understand exactly what they need or make suggestions to improve their functions within their organization. And with that being said, we've actually over the last 27 years served many clients across the world. They have ranged from small clients to very large clients with 50 to 1,000 employees. In terms of our product offering, what we actually do is we have a level 7 enterprise solution framework that we try and talk to our customers about. Some of them are in the cloud and some of them are on-premise, and today we're going to be talking about the CPM space, so we are talking about adaptive insights, which is in the cloud solution. We do offer ERP solutions, other unique solutions, and collaborative solutions, and we'll go all the way up to more strategic planning and analysis with some of our customers. So there is a wide spectrum of services that we offer, and as I mentioned earlier today, we're going to focus on adaptive insights. Before we talk about the product itself, I just wanted to sort of reiterate why probably most of you or some of you are attending this webinar, and really it comes down to the role of finance and how it's hopefully evolving and changing. And a traditional CFO role has been one of more of an accountant type role where you're doing transactional entries, you're overseeing these, you're doing month-end closes, and you're really doing accounting type work. And what we found are, there's many studies that have found this, that over the years, the CFOs want to evolve and they want to become more strategic leaders within their organization, and they would rather spend more time on the strategic type of work and less time doing the day-to-day accounting type work. So if we can find, or if you can find a tool that helps you to streamline your accounting and transactional type activities so that you can focus more and free up more time on the strategy type activities and actually provide value-added services to your organization, that would be valuable. Okay. So how do you go about doing that? Well, there are a certain number of steps that you can help transform the process. Data can come from different sources in your organization, such as your HR system, your CRM system, your ERP, your GL. But what it really means is, we're going beyond basic budgeting and reporting, and we're looking at centralizing data. We're looking at all of the organizations or the business units within your organizations collaborating together so that we have an enterprise collaboration, one version of the truth to create a plan, report on that, and then use that for continuous forecasting what if scenarios. Overlying on top of that, you can have accurate and timely dashboards with KPIs and metrics and reporting. So really the goal is to give the managers or the cost center managers and senior leadership teams data that they can use and measure to manage the business going forward. How do you do that? Well, there are traditionally probably 80 to 90% of you folks would use Excel, which is great and it's fine, but it is manual, it's inefficient, it's error prone, and it is non-collaborative. So, you can have one spreadsheet and you can email that spreadsheet around for everybody to contribute. On the other end of the spectrum, we have enterprise-wide apps where they're, Oracle, SAP, IBM, they're difficult to deploy, low user adoption. expensive, and very IT intensive. And for these type of applications, if you as a business user need to make changes to these applications, there's usually a lot of cost, a lot of time, and you're relying on other people. So Adaptive Insights comes in the middle, and it's a cloud-based CPM solution. It's meant to be fast to deploy, easy to use, and when you see it, you'll see it. It does have a very similar look and feel to Excel. It's accurate, it's affordable, and one of the main benefits is there is no IT footprint required. So really what it means is that companies of all sizes can benefit from this, and we're trying to make it a self-service environment and put it in the hands of the business users. So let's talk a little bit more about Adaptive Insights. So now we know, why would we be considering a new solution? Well, Adaptive Insights has been a leader in the cloud BI and CPM space for many, many years. They're growing rapidly. They have a 90% plus growth rate. They have over 2,000 customers in, some very, very big organizations and some not as well-known organizations as well. And really the goal is to help these people, plan and report and consolidate and analyze their data in a much quicker fashion. How do they do that? Well, they have basically, it's applicable to many, many, many different industries. So when we look in the software, you'll be able to customize the organization structure and the GL and make it look and feel to you. And what that means is it's appropriate for a lot of different areas. In Canada in particular, they've had over 125 Canadian customers using it across many organizations, so it really is applicable. You can see some big names on this page as well here: Shopify, Oceans Tuna, etc. What does it mean when we talk about Adaptive Insights? Well, it's actually a suite of products. So it involves a modules-based system where you get to actually pick and choose what you want to be able to use. So adaptive planning covers your typical budgeting and forecasting. Discovery provides dashboards and visualization gauges. Consolidation allows you to do intercompany transactions, and reporting, of course, allows you to report. On top of that, we actually have adaptive integration where you can start to connect to some of your data sources, your ERP systems, for example, or your HR systems, so that you'll be able to pull in actual data into the system. They do have some built-in out-of-the-box connections already done, and as well, you can actually get data in through Excel as well. So the benefit of that is that you have one single version of the truth. Everybody's looking at the same data, and you go from there. So what we'll do now is we'll talk about each of the instances in a little bit more detail. So when we talk about adaptive planning, this is really the core of the Adaptive Insights module. They started out with this, and then they built on the other modules as they've gone forward. So this is where you would actually do your planning, your budgeting, your forecasting. This is where all the calculations sit, the workflows, allocations, financial operations. And at the end of the day, really what you can get out of this module, we'll say, is you can do your balance sheets, your cash flows, your personnel, your budgeting. You can pull in your actuals and compare it to your budgets, etc., and go from that way. And part of the adaptive planning includes the built-in reporting there. So the next piece we'll talk about is adaptive discovery. Sorry, we'll go back there. Adaptive discovery is the dashboards and gauges, and that allows you to put a visualization on your thing. So this is an additional module that you can choose to buy, and we'll get into, when we do the demo itself, you'll actually see what that looks like here. Next up, we'll talk about adaptive consolidation. And what this really does is it's meant to capture the close to disclose process. So here's where you can set up intercompany allocations, you can set up ownership percentages, you can set up currency and do all those recalculations, and it will create the journal entries and the audit trail that you need from a consolidation purpose. And the demo that we're actually going to be looking at today does have this module set up. Again, this is a optional module that you can choose to purchase or not purchase depending on whether it's something that your organization needs. With respect to adaptive reporting, there are there's a built-in reporting mechanism directly within Adaptive, and as well we can export all of these reports to Excel or some other type of HTML, PDF, that sort of thing. Sorry, let me go back down here. So what does that look like? Well, basically you can create reports. They're drag and drop. They're like pivot tables in Excel. We'll take a very detailed look at that during the demo as well. It's meant to be self-serve so that the folks, rather than going in and asking IT for specific reports and information, you can build these reports yourself. And Adaptive is based on the security profiles and the roles of the people that are logging into the system. So everything that you see, the administrator controls in terms of access. So if there's a user who should only see access to certain information, that's what they'll be limited to. And you can create, all of your reports, your financial statements, and et cetera. And you can actually leverage these. There is a mobile application for Adaptive, so you can use it on your tablets and that sort of thing. It makes it nice for people on the go. And I think what we'll do is we'll just get into the product itself. I think I've covered everything. The last topic, of course, before we get in is, why would I want to consider Adaptive? I wanted to bring back, we talked about the earlier pain points of Excel that's error prone and it's, it's not very collaborative in nature and that sort of thing. So Adaptive really helps to overcome the challenges that most folks are, feeling in their budgeting process today. So it helps to reduce the time for the cycle time for your budgeting. It helps to increase collaboration and reduce errors. It's very easy to use, it's intuitive, and it is affordable. So what we'll do is we'll take a look at that right now. You should be seeing my Internet Explorer page. We'll go right to the login page that I've got bookmarked here. All you need to access Adaptive is an Internet Explorer. So there's no software or anything else that's required. All you need is your Explorer, and you log in this way, okay? And it really is very easy to set up once you decide to purchase the software. If you do, you basically, within a day have access to your environment. So very, very easy. As I mentioned before, your login credentials actually, deem what you can see within the organization. So I'm logging in as an administrator, and that means I'm going to be seeing a lot of data that perhaps, other people might not be seeing if they were non-administrator type folks. What we'll do at the end of the demo is I'll actually log in as somebody who has restricted access so that you'll be able to see just the differences of what these different views look like. So what you're seeing here is my home page when I log in. And you'll notice that it's actually on the processes that are showing up. And really there is a process management piece, a process tracker. It's an additional module that's available within Adaptive Planning. And it allows you to track tasks against certain processes, and it allows you to look at the workflows as well. So it's really used to track things like the close process and that sort of thing. And what you can do is you can actually assign these tasks to the different roles within the organization. So the director of marketing might not have any tasks related to month-end processing, whereas the controller would have more tasks. You can set due dates. So what you can do is very easily as a manager, for example, go in and see where you're at in the various tasks that you've got set out in terms of the due dates and those sorts of things. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go and I'm going to look at the sheets, because this is where most of the people spend most of their time within Adaptive. So, what does that look like? Well, basically sheets are data entry points and or reports where you can actually put data in. And as I mentioned earlier, this is where most of the people spend time. Because I'm logged in as an administrator, you can actually see I have access to many, many, many sheets. But if I logged in and had restricted access, for example, if I wasn't privy to personnel information, then I wouldn't be able to access that information. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go on expenses first. So, typical budgeting, you can budget revenues, you can budget expenses, you can budget capital, those sorts of things. I mentioned earlier that Adaptive has a very similar look and feel to Excel. So you can see, we've got basically rows down the side. We've got a time dimension across the top. And then we've got our organization level, which is our total company here, okay? One of the things that I wanted to show you as well is that we have a version selector here. So right now we're working on the 2015 working budget. So this is my current budget. You can see that the budget starts in January and it keeps going onwards. You can have any number of budgets that you want. So you can, you know, copy a budget and use it and make changes going forward. So you can do what-if scenarios. You can lock budgets down once they're finished, and then the actual data goes into a budget itself. What you'll do is you'll notice that on this page, most of these, or all of these cells have a gray background. And what that means is that these are actually read-only cells. And the reason that is that we are looking at the highest level of the organization structure. So again, this is totally customizable for you and your organization. And in this case here, we do have the consolidations that I was talking about earlier, where we have different companies with different percentages ownerships. And basically, you can create as many hierarchies in this structure as you need. So, you know, you can drill down and get to the level that you need to be. So if I click on Sales North, for example, what you'll see is that all of a sudden now I do have some of cells that are no longer grayed out. They're not read-only, and I can actually start to make data entry into these cells. Okay, so you know, what does that look like? Well, you know, let's take a look at these office supplies, for example. It's quite easy to get data in here. You know, if I wanted to change this to $500 across the board, I could just change that and then copy it forward very, very easily. I could copy it to the end, and all of a sudden I've made a global change for this particular account for that, and I would just click Save, and away I go. Okay, what you can see here as well is that we've got some formulas in our cells, and you can see that these, you know, for some of these formulas, we've left them as read-only. So the purple triangle in the bottom corner means that we actually have a formula, and if you look at the top bar, it's telling you what this formula is, and we can actually drill down into deeper details, which I'll show you a little bit later on. Okay. So let's take a look at, you know, maybe you want to do some below the line budgeting, and what you can actually do is you can add splits to certain accounts to be able to budget below the line. So if you wanted to add details to justify a certain number, for example, we could add a split and, you know, call it adaptive insights training, so that if you know that you were going to be budgeting for this, we could put it in the specific month, and away you go, and then that line item and that detail is going to be available on the plans, and we could say, look, we know all of this training is going to take place in May, and away we go, and we can save that data. So this allows you to give a level of detail that you might not have at the account level. So we see people using that particularly for travel and those different things as well. Another thing that you can do is you can add notes onto a sheet to provide details about variances, for example. And the nice thing about that is that you can actually pull the data into the reports, those notes, and report on them that way too. And there are other ways to get data in and spread it. So what you can see is some advanced mechanisms here where if I want to copy forward, I can do some advanced things which are quite neat. I can copy them to a certain period, I can stop at a period, I can increase them by 10%, for example, or I can increase them by a certain value, I can decrease them, and then that logic is also applied there, which is quite nice. One of the other things that we can do as well is we can actually say, well, you know, I know that this particular amount is too high. I want to break that down and say I'm limiting myself, so it can do a break back function. And if I hit enter, it's going to ask me how I want to break that back. So if I want to break it back proportionally, it would spread it based on what I have in there now. Or I could decide to break it back evenly, for example, and it would spread that out. And it only includes the details of where I'm at. The other thing you can do is you can you know, make some global changes by doing multiple selections and then enter your data here, so you can adjust it all and increase it all by $50, for example. And you know, my point of showing this is that, you know, you can make some very, very quick changes on a global level and get your budget, you know, banged out pretty quickly here. The view we're looking at now on this standard sheet shows a list of accounts for Sales North, but you can actually change this view. If you wanted to say view by level instead, what we'll do is we'll leave this page and it's going to change the view. So for somebody who, happens to be, let's say there's the sales manager is responsible for all of the commissions across the organization, rather than having to go into each one of these organizational levels and budget at that level, we could say, look, let's give him access to the entire organization, and that way he can budget for each of these and see the total impact of that at the end of the day. So it really is flexible in terms of how you want to be able to do your budgeting and what's appropriate for you. Okay. I'm going to go back here just to go back to the high level here. What you'll notice as well is that we've got, we have formulas in here. So, if we said new hires, or let's take a look at telephone expenses, that's a pretty straightforward one to understand. We've got a telephone expense. It's not, this isn't a read-only account, but it could be because we're actually doing calculations so that we don't want people to override those. That's a choice the administrator would make. But you can see that it's taking the personnel FTEs times an assumption of telephone per head for my U.S. employees. So if I wanted to explore that and see how that calculation was actually done for every cell, you can actually just explore into your cell and you can drill down and you can see the underlying data. So keep in mind I'm at Sales North here, and what I can see is that I have 4.74 FTEs for this particular month in February, and my telephone charge per FTE is 40. And if I wanted to drill down again and see who those actual employees are, who's contributing to that expense, and this is coming out of my personnel module, you can see where this is coming from. You can see that Gordon, Sean, Florence, Valerie are all contributing to that, and then I do have a new hire that I'm expecting that is coming partway through this quarter or this month, so I'm calculating that as well. One of the things on this Explore function as well is an audit trail, so it allows you to see the data and any changes. Right now there have been no changes to this particular record, but if there were some changes that were made, it would show the time of the change, who made the change, and what the value was. So it does provide a nice audit trail of data changes, and you can actually search and report on those audit trails as well. Okay. Many, best practice is to have a lot of your accounts formula driven. I'm going to go back just one second here to show you, in particular, if we take a look at the expenses, salaries for sure usually is a very, very large part of many organizations' cost base, and it's one of the easiest ones to model. Adaptive comes with some out-of-the-box best practice sheets already built in terms of salary and wages. They do have Canadian-specific ones as well, which account for CPP and max and benefits and those sorts of things. So, and of course, you can customize those as you need. So what you can see here is, for my salary and wages and my commission, these are actually coming off of a sheet called Personnel Commission and the Payout. So what we'll do is we'll go and take a look at that sheet right now. So we'll go back to Sheets, and we'll go to Personnel. Okay, so what we're looking is we're actually looking at the final sheet. It's been built by the administrator, but this is the data input part of it after you build it. So, there are some typical columns that you would expect in terms of name. Some of these are actually text files where you can import or type in data that you want. Title, for example, is a text file. Some of them are drop-down lists, so you can specify, where they are living. Some of them are, you can add comments. You would always have an employee start date and an end date because this allows you to calculate any full-time equivalents or FTEs in the month. You can say, how many hours a week is a particular person opening. If you choose, you can apply health benefits, and you can have different health plans for different folks. So, here in Canada, I know typically we have, are you a single person or are you a family, and what coverage do you need? You can do things like, say, yes, this person is going to get a raise. When will they get the raise? What's the percentage, etc. You can pull in their pay rate, and for this particular cost center, all of these people are paid on an annual basis, but you may have somebody that's paid hourly, and in that case your pay rate would be, $20 an hour or whatever it is. We've got some commission targets, bonus percentages, etc. And then one other thing that you can see here as well is that you can actually allocate an employee. So, William, for example, his home base is Sales North, but if he's actually doing work for some other areas like Canada and the UK, you can actually put his time against those different areas and see his salary costs will actually then be allocated out if you so choose to do that. And the data is monthly specific. Again, everything in Adaptive is monthly specific, so that if you choose to, only allocate this person for a percentage of the time, you can certainly make that. And again, the changes are very, very easy to make. If you make a data input, you can copy it to the end. You can do the advanced. Okay, so what does all this mean? Basically, it means that you import all this data. If you wanted to, typically the clients will import this data from their existing HR system or Excel files that they have it stored in, and that is their basically current state, and then what they can say to their cost center managers is Sales North. Okay, you have these 6 folks here that we've got, or 5 folks that we've got in your cost center, and now budget for any new hires that you think are going to be coming on in the new period, and when will they be hired? Will they be working for anybody else? What's their expected pay rate, etc. And then the cost of those new people will be incorporated into the budget. Okay. One of the things that I wanted to show you as well is that we are looking at a working budget. And it's very, very easy to transfer that working budget into a forecast budget. And what does that mean? Well, that basically means you can take a copy of your budget, and I'm going to go back onto my expenses sheet just to illustrate this here. You can take a copy of your existing budget, and then you can change the start date of that budget. So you can see we've got a working budget here that starts in January. So this budget covers from January and it goes forward into future periods. Well, what does that mean? From a forecast perspective, I could say, look, when I'm going to do my moving forecast, I want to replace the first 3 months of that with my actuals now that the time has passed, and then I'll use the remaining budget to continue on and take a look. So now you can see that I've got January, February, March as actuals now, because these are now in green, which means they're actuals and they're coming from my actual version, and then my forecasted version is starting from April onwards. So what you can do is you continuously roll forward and replace the budgets with the actuals if you so choose, as you're working your way throughout the year to see how you're accomplishing and how reality is actually accomplishing close to the budget here. Okay. What we've looked at so far are some standard sheets. What I'm going to look at now is a cube sheet. This is typically used to calculate product sales or something like that, for example. So what you can do is you can, it's got a very, very similar look and feel. I'm going to go back to my working budget here just so we're in the one version. It's got a very, very similar look and feel in that you have accounts down the side and you have your time dimension as well. But what this particular cube sheet allows you to do is it allows you to pull up to 7 extra dimensions, so you can actually start to plan at the product customer level, for example, in sales. So in this case here, if I take a look at my product hierarchy, and that this is entirely configurable, so it's based on your needs, I have product groups, I have a list of customers, so I can make some selections and say, customer 2, product A2. Let's go ahead and change that and see what happens. And my view is updated. And what I can do is I can start to pull. And really the only 2 inputs that I have on this particular screen are how many units do I expect to sell to the customer, and what discount, if any, am I going to give that customer. And everything else, it flows through. So if I said I wanted to give this customer a 5% discount, I would just enter that data. I would click Save. And my gross revenue went from $6,670. And it went net revenue with my discount now is 6,334. So you can automatically see the implications of changing any number of the units, the discounts, etc. The prices we kept locked down because we were saying these are actually coming from a master table list, and this is an assumptions page that we've got built up. So you can create global assumptions across the organization. They can be department specific, So if you had different pricing on the West Coast versus the East Coast, for example, you could certainly accommodate that, or you can have a one central price list for the entire organization and go from there. Okay, so it's really quite nice and quite flexible there. In terms of getting the data in, because you might not necessarily want to import all of that data, in a cell-by-cell basis, and even though I've showed you it's quite easy to, get data in and copy it forward, they do have an integration function, and this integration is not the direct connect piece. This is basically just an integration from Excel. So you can either integrate into one of your actual versions, which we saw, or you can integrate into one of your plan versions, which is everything else, including your forecast and your what-ifs. And you can actually choose to integrate transactions if you want and have that level of detail in there. And if you choose to integrate from a spreadsheet, you can integrate into a standard sheet, or you can integrate into one of the model sheets that we built, like personnel. And when you do that, if you clicked on something, basically if you're not sure what your import file should look like, all you have to do is click on the data template, and it will tell you exactly what mandatory fields which are usually accounts and the org structure level and the time dimension. And then what optional fields that you need as well. Once you have that set up, you click import, and if there are any issues with your import file, we'll certainly pick those out for you. So, we talked about, or we looked at a lot of financial data in here. You can actually have non-financial data in here as well, if you wanted to use that to calculate metrics and different KPIs and those sorts of things. Okay, what I'll do is I'll just show you a capital planning sheet, just because this comes out of the box with Adaptive as well. It's built on the best practice, and again, you can modify it to meet your needs. But basically what you can do is you can create different asset classes within your organization and associate a depreciation schedule with those assets, and then depending on your purchase date, it will calculate depreciation going forward, and if you link those to your accumulated depreciation and expense accounts, those will be reflected on your financial statements. So it makes it quite easy to budget at the level, and you can have any number of asset classes that you want or you need in your organization as well. Something like software, if you might not necessarily have a business unit who understands depreciation, so you can allow them to just pick software from this list and say, look, their software should never be depreciated, so we're going to expense it in the month that it's bought. So it's entirely flexible and entirely up to you, which is quite nice. And at the end of the day, what does all that mean? Well, basically you get you use the results of your budgeting to build up your P&Ls and your balance sheets, for example, your cash flow statements. And, these can be read-only just for reporting purposes, or you can actually allow them to enter data at this level as well if you need to. So it's entirely up to you here. Okay. So once all of the data is in the model, what you actually do is you can look at your reporting. So I'm going to go into what I'll do is I'll go back up to my highest level just so we can see where I'm at, and then we'll click on reports. As I mentioned, this reporting function comes with Adaptive, so this is different than the Office Connect piece. And basically, when you go here, it's meant to be a self-service environment with no IT footprint so that you can actually create the reports that you need. So what you'll see is you have a personal folder. You can organize these any way you want. The personal reports only you can see, but the shared reports you can actually share with whom and what you want. So, a typical report that we look at is a variance analysis report. So if we wanted to pull in, our month variance analysis, we could pull that in. What does that look like? Well, you see we have an actuals column, we have a working budget column. This is the version that we were working in. I can pick a time period. I can look at my variance. I can create, conditional alerts to say if they're within a certain range, give me a flag. I can compare them to the previous month or the previous year. So, they're entirely customizable. I had mentioned that, any notes that we add on cells come in here, so we can actually have these notes, and you could choose to actually include those notes in the report itself, as opposed to, or create a report note and then display them in different formats, and then you can very, very easily change your view and regenerate the report with a click of a button. So the way you build the reports is entirely customizable. The way you format them is entirely customizable, and they are published and shared with the folks that you want to share with based on the security. Okay, you can build reports with a drill down capability. So as we're drilling down here, what you can see is when I added that split for adaptive training, and I said, it's going to start in a particular month, and I'm looking at March, here's my expenses for that month now. So it's automatically always live, pointing to the database, and there's only one version of the truth, which is quite nice. And you can drill down to any level that you need, or if you want to create a high-level report with no drill downs, you can do that. If you wanted to drill down to the transaction level, you can do that as well. So very, very, very flexible. The other reports that I wanted to show you were more like an Excel template report. So if we go here and we can take a look at a monthly reporting package, and we'll just open that up. And what this does is this actually allows us to create a report. And this is where I'm actually going to have to select a parameter. It's choosing me to select a parameter before I run my report, and I've set it up that way. But once I run my report, I'm going to say, yes, I do want to open that report in Excel. So basically, I start with a blank template. I can leverage, for example, my existing reports that I have, and then I can point them to the adaptive instance and get them updated automatically. So the nice thing is now I'm looking at March data. March, I've got these nice reports. I'm connecting to the adaptive. It's a one-way push, so I can't make changes in here to push back to adaptive. But it allows me, to create a reporting package or leverage a reporting package that I have, and then just update it with the information that I have as I'm going forward. So we're looking at March, and then if I so choose to go and repeat that and say, okay, now it's April and I want to run my report for April, I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to see that my Excel template is automatically updated. So it's a great way to get the reports out and create a report pack. You have it once, or you leverage your existing reports, and then you can share that file with other folks. And it's opening up. So I've got too many add-ins in my Excel. It takes some time to open up. So we'll enable editing. You see we're in March, but I had run the report for April, and then it updates to April, and all of the values in the underlying data are now showing April. So very, very quick to get those reports up to date. What I'm going to show you now as well is how easy it is to actually build those reports, because we talked about how it looked like it's almost like an Excel interface. So what you do to create a new report is you basically just click on New Report, and there are a variety of reports that you can create. You can create a transaction report. Here's the audit trail report that I was talking about earlier. You can create a modeled report based on the personnel sheet, for example, or you can create a matrix report. And this is the most popular type of report. So what it does is it basically shows you all of the dimensions that you have set up in your model, all of your accounts, your time spans, your versions, and you simply drag and drop and you start to build your report. So if I wanted to drill down and say, look, I'm looking at my operating expenses only. If I pull in just this level, it'll allow me to drill down, but if I pull in this level, it'll already start in that drill down position. You do need a time span, so we could say, look, let's create a quarterly report, for example. I'm going to pull that in, and then we do need a version as well. So if I'm interested in my 2015 working budget that I've created, I'll pull that in here. If you wanted to do 2 versions, then all you need to do is pull in your actual side-by-side, for example, and pull those in, and away you go. And now we've got 2 versions. So I can just generate that report now. There's a variety of formats, but I'm choosing to generate it just in HTML, for example. So I can see by quarter, I've got my actuals versus my budgets, and I can do calculations, and I can format this, and I can drill down to whatever level of detail I need to drill down to, and I can actually do my Cell Explorer as well if I wanted to drill into that, and it would pop back up and show me where this different information is coming from, because I'm looking at a quarterly value, it's showing me the monthly values, and it's showing me where it's coming from, and it's showing me the data on my expense sheet, etc. I've got my audit trail. So all that functionality is in the reporting as well. which is quite nice. Okay, one of the other things is what I'll quickly show you is the discovery piece. So we'll go here and we'll take a look at discovery. And what this is an add-on module. It's an additional module, and it's meant to be user-specific. So my dashboard could look different from somebody else's dashboard, et cetera, et cetera. So what it allows me to do is just, I'm going to minimize this for 1 second here because I need to get to this screen. There's my, so I can see my, my perspective here, and what it allows me to do is take a look at certain data. So as I make changes going to the top and I say, right now everything I'm viewing is for May, I want to go to November, for example, all of my underlying reports and dashboards underneath will be changed. And we could set this to be our home pages if this is something that you want. But again, it's always pointing to the same adaptive instance, and it has that drill down capability that we've seen as well. So if I wanted to drill into my organization level and see where a particular information was coming from, and I wanted to drill down, and I can see it's coming from ops and from corporate, and if I wanted to drill down again, I can see that it's coming from, you know, the US, Canada, and the UK, and you could keep going down, and it keeps the trail of your drill down so that you know exactly what you're looking at all times, as well as showing the perspective here. You know, the colors, the zones, you can create alerts here to say, look, you know, anytime it falls within a certain area, or show me the trends. You can create your microcharts. You can create, you know, there are all sorts of neat things that you can do in terms of doing statistical analysis and doing linear averages and those sorts of things. So it's quite interesting, and you can drill down as well to whatever level of detail that you wanted if you wanted to look at a specific company. And the nice thing is that everything below it is always refreshed as well. So it really does make it very easy to use to get analytics and KPIs out and use that, you know, the self-service drill down to investigate what you're looking for. Another piece that we have is the Office Connect piece. So this is an additional module, and what it does is it allows you to, you know, you install the software itself. It allows you to actually connect Excel directly to your adaptive instance, and I'll show you that. Just so I simply log in. Again, my credentials are going to provide the security as to what I can see and what I can't see when I log into this particular instance. I'll just take a moment to start that up. So they have a connection to Excel, and then from the Excel connection, you can connect to Word or to PowerPoint. So it makes it very, very easy to create board report packs, etc. You know, and have automatic links to your data. So as you're updating this on a quarterly basis, for example, all the underlying numbers will change, and then you know, only you have to read the text to verify that the surrounding text makes sense. But basically, when you log into your Adaptive Connect, you see those same sort of, what we'll call them elements that we saw when we were building a matrix report. So I have all of the accounts. So I have my GL accounts, my assets, my liabilities, my expenses. I've got any custom accounts that I've built. I've got my modeled accounts, including my capital, my personnel. I've got any assumptions that I've built in, et cetera, in terms of work days of the month. And then I've got my underlying org structure as well. So if I wanted to drill down or create a report for a particular level in my organization, I could certainly pull that in. You have your versions as well. So in this case, we only had 2 versions, an actual versus a budget. And we have our time elements. So everything that you need. Typically in Adaptive, your report covers an account, which can be a GL account or a custom account, or a, you know, a metric account like a gross profit. It covers a time. It includes a time span, and that includes the organizational level that we're working at or looking at. So you would pull these elements in, and you would drag them and you drop them and open them. So I'm going to just show you one that we've created here. And again, this is a one-way pull from Adaptive, so you can't make changes in the spreadsheet. But really what it's meant to do is leverage all of the existing Excel functionality, so you can have data that's automatically linked. If you make a change to your underlying budget in Adaptive, these numbers will update automatically, the alerts will update, and then as you're going forward, you can create the number of tabs. So it's a little bit different than the report template that we saw, because we actually have a live link to the data, and if we need to automatically refresh something, we can do that. But otherwise, the premise is the same. And again, you can leverage the built-in templates that you have there. I'll take a quick moment just to show you the consolidation piece now, where we've got about 10 minutes left in the demo. So in terms of consolidation, what this does is it allows you to create elimination rules. We'll take a look at the payables and receivables, for example, and we'll go to January. We're taking a look at the overall company here. So the white rows are the actual transactions themselves that come in from the raw data. And you can see if I drill down, I can actually explore the cell and see that, okay, of my $2,800, that was a U.S. amount, and it's coming from the U.S. But if I had an amount that was coming from my Canadian, you can see I have $3,071 US, but it's actually 3,100 Canadian as my source. So the nice thing is we can import all of our Canadian data in Canadian dollars, and then this will automatically do any calculations and consolidations, and it creates the journal entries, which are here in gray, and any rounding if necessary. So it's meant to capture, all of the adjustments and transactions and interallocations from the consolidation point of view. And what you can actually do is you can actually, as an administrator function, you can specify all of the different percentages and these sorts of things. And again, because the data is period specific, you can actually specify this data on a monthly basis if the ownership changed and stuff like that. So they do have a lot of consolidation customers who find this quite valuable, because it really does help to streamline the consolidation process. And it is it's certainly not meant for anybody, and it's an additional module, but if you have that need, it's certainly there. So we talked about the process tracker. Let's look at the workflow. What the workflow does is the workflow allows you as a manager to see the progress of all of the different budgets. So because I'm logged in as an administrator with access to the entire company, I can see the whole company level. But if somebody is coming in and they're doing a budget, for example, for, let's go drill down to Sales North. If I'm the Sales North person and I'm doing my budget, I can see that, gosh, I submitted my budget and it was rejected. Sales South, if they wanted to submit their budget, they could submit it for approval. And what happens when you do that is you can create an email trigger so that the person higher up in the organization level, for example, the U.S. manager, gets an alert that Sales South has just submitted their budget, go in and review, and then the U.S. manager can decide whether to approve that budget or to reject it and ask the person to rework it. So it goes all the way up the ladder through every organization level until it reaches the top. So once a budget is submitted, it's locked down for review, and then an administrator could actually, to either approve or reject the budget and go from there. So, it's as simple as, let's approve this budget for Sales East, and then you can see that it's been approved, and it's as easy as that. So anybody can go in very quickly with one, snapshot and take a look at the status of the budgets and see where people are at. I had talked about how I would show you what it looks like to log in as a different person, because access can be restricted. So let's just take a quick look at that. Okay, so you can see that I have, as Sales North, have a different home page, which is entirely fine. I can go in and I can take a look. What you're going to see here is that I have less access. So again, because access is set at the user level and the security is at the user level, I don't have access to the administrator menu. I'm not that, and I only have access to certain sheets that I'm looking at. So it's a much smaller list than we saw with the other administrator there. So if I wanted to go in and I wanted to take a look at my personnel, for example, what you're going to see is that you're going to see I only have access to my particular organization. So I've got that person. Again, if I need to allocate somebody within my department somewhere else, I can certainly do that. But you'll notice now, if I click on my organization hierarchy, there are no other levels. I don't have access to go anywhere else within the organization. And so in this case, this manager has been given the ability and the responsibility to budget for the personnel within their department, but they cannot see any other departments. And the same thing holds true for the different reports and all those different things. So the security is valid through the whole organization. You can see I have my own personal reports folder, which happens to be empty. In the other instance, we saw 2 reports, but I don't have access to those. And then I can create reports and open up reports, but again, they're specific only to my organization. So if I wanted to look at a new hire report, I can see just the new hires for my particular person, and I said to set this report for people who started in January afterwards, so you can see, you know, the new hires that I've added in there and any associated fees with them. And it's very, very easy as well. If you create these reports, if you wanted to export them to Excel, for example, it's very, very quickly to do. You would just click on printable view, and away you go. I'm not sure my Excel will cooperate here. Let's try and open it. And there it is. So all of a sudden now I'm creating the reports and the views in Excel, and then I can turn around and share these. Yeah, it's taking a little bit of a while to do that, but that's okay. So we've got that. So again, I just wanted to reiterate that the security is paramount. It's very important. You let people see what you want to see. So all of the people, think of it as everybody within the organization level would be going in and completing their own budgets, and then going from there, and then the manager, when they log in, can see the results real time, live. Beauty of it being in the cloud is that, you know, the updates get done. You do get notified if there are updates and if the system will be unavailable. It doesn't happen too often, and they typically do it on off hours. And you know, the benefit is you're working with one version of the truth. You know, you can't break the Excel links and the formulas in Excel. Everything is, you know, driven. I'll show you. Let me just log in one more time just so you can get a look and feel of what the assumptions look like here. And then I think we'll have to wrap it up. So I'm going to click submit. And if I go back to my assumptions tab, you'll see any assumptions that I have access to. For example, personnel-wide assumptions, and these are set at the company level only. So I'm not allowed to go and set these at any other level within the organization because it's deemed there. So what we can do is we can have, you know, some standard assumptions in terms of the raises, the months. Only one person has to maintain this table, and then everybody else can certainly go out. So this is where you would be setting up your company benefits and, you know, a lot of the HR type work as well. You could have your, you know, your sales type assumptions in here. So for any sales drivers, if we had list prices or if we had costs associated with the various products, again, it's specific to the overall company as a whole. If you did want to give the ability in this particular case to drill down to different levels, you know, if you needed to, you could certainly do that. And we've set these as read-only for this particular administrator here, so you can see the different costs and they can go forward. So that is it. Thank you all for attending the demo. I hope you found it informative. As in terms of next steps, what we could actually do, if you need to, we can certainly arrange a one-on-one demo with a larger audience within your organization, you know, the CFO or the decision makers. We could talk about different implementation plans that we have and that sort of thing. And if you needed more information on pricing, what I'll do is I'll share my contact information with you here. If you want to contact me directly, you can certainly do that. My name is Donna Paoletti, and I want to thank you for attending. I've been with Corporate Renaissance Group for 16 years and been using Adaptive now for the past 3 years. We've been partners with them, so it's been a very fun journey along the way. All right, folks, thanks for attending.